Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade. I apologize. I'm still not 100%, so you might hear me coughing. I'll try to mute the microphone during those coughing times. It's not COVID, but it's pretty strong, but we'll overcome it, God willing. Okay, a few things about myself. My name is Simon Friedman, Senior Account Manager with AvaTrade. I started to trade as a prop trader back in New York City in year 2000, about June. So I've been doing it for almost 23 years. After 11 years of intense prop trading, I moved into less stressful environments and also started to mentor and educate other traders. And I'm very happy that I have an opportunity to assist our customers. So, excuse me. So what we do here, trying to make a plan for the week pretty much. The regular people are used to it. For new people, I'll explain a few things. And I use the quote the traders like to use that they say, you plan your trade and then you trade your plan. This way, you actually have a structure, you have a plan to execute as opposed to just spontaneously picking up the trades here and there. So we'll go through some indices, some stocks, commodities, and Forex. This is the risk warning. You can find a full statement at avatrade.com. What we do here is purely educational, of course. And these are the channels that I highly recommend for you to use. You have Telegram, you have X, Twitter, and my favorite YouTube channel where you can find a lot of educational materials, tutorials, webinars. If you missed a webinar or you know you're about to miss one, don't worry. They're being recorded and posted. Some of you are watching this on YouTube, so please feel free to like it. If you do like it, share, subscribe, click on the bell so you'll be notified when the new things are coming in. Okay, so before we go to the economic calendar, we have a very busy week in front of us. In a few days, it's closing the month. So we have a few important events that the market's been expecting. And that's the Federal Reserve policy meeting. On Wednesdays, there's the decision and the press conference of Powell. As usual, that's a busy event and markets being affected. Investors and traders are still hoping for some clues of the early interest rate cuts, maybe as early as March. We had some inflation data last week showing some slowness. So we definitely will see what the Feds have to say, what the guidance they give us going forward. Also, we finished the week with NFP numbers, the employment data from the US, which is one of the most influential events for the markets. And of course, the Feds are taking that into consideration as well in their further interest rate decisions as well. Also, we have about 100 S&P firms reporting this week. So it's a busy week. Okay, so this is the economic calendar. Sorry about the small font. I just tried to fit it in the same page. So before going to it, just explain it to new people. This is the public information. You can find it on our web trader or the app. Also, third-party providers have this information. It's public information, as I said. You can filter through it. What I do here, I take out the high impact event only. That's why you see them in red. There's much more. You can filter through it. You can see what's relevant to your trading and so on. Okay, so let's just run through it really quick. We're starting Tuesday with retail sales from Australia, GDP numbers from both Germany and European Union. Moving to Wednesday, we have CPI numbers from Australia. We have manufacturing and non-manufacturing PMI numbers from China. So you know China is having issues. The past few days they try recovering a little bit. Retail sales and CPI numbers from Germany, excuse me. And here we have the ADP employment change. That's something that gives us a little bit of an idea before the non-farm payroll comes on Friday. And here you have the Fed monetary policy statement and the decision, and 30 minutes later, it's the most important thing, the press conference, when Powell is gonna dodge all the bullets of the press, trying to answer the questions. Some of them are very provocative. So we'll be watching the press conference for sure. Thursday, manufacturing PMI from China, CPI numbers from Europe. We have another interest rate decision from the major central bank, from Bank of England. Last week we had the European Central Bank, didn't change things. And here, as you could see, the expectation is no change. We're planning on leaving the rates at 5.25%. And the same thing, we have a report, minutes, and 30 minutes later, we have the governor, Bank of England, Bailey, speaking. The same day on Thursday, we have manufacturing PMI. And Friday, the NFP numbers. It includes how many jobs were added, the average hourly earnings, unemployment, and so on. Okay, so these are the things. Now, as you know, sometimes I find some stories here. So this is from marketwatch.com. It says right here, as goes January, so goes the year. History shows US stocks are set to continue climbing in 2024 after a strong start. It just reminds me the beginning of the year when they said we had the 5 sell-off days, and they said that also will set up a year. So now it's the opposite scenario. It just shows you that we don't really know. And we as traders, we have to take each day at a time, or one day at a time, and try to look for trading opportunities. So a good article, you can read it. They give you statistics of how many times or what's the percentage of the market ending up high, about 13% higher after closing above 2% gain for the month of January. Okay, so as we said, we have 100 S&P 500 companies reporting. We have a lot of data, so it's going to be a busy week fundamentally. Let's take a look at indices. We're going to start with China. As I mentioned, they're trying to bounce a little bit here. The moment we lifted above 11,150, we're testing the 50-day moving average here. Some are excited. Skeptics are saying that these moves to inject some liquidity into the banks or economy, it's short-lived. So I guess we'll find out. Nevertheless, the Chinese index ran up a little bit, and it took with it crude oil and copper as well. So it could be that this move in China has some energy to continue. The Japanese index didn't really go higher, even though the yen sold a little bit. So after making highs here, we had 3 consecutive sessions to the downside, and Friday was flat pretty much. Now, US indices, as we said, they're having a super strong January, as you could see, 3rd consecutive month. If you take a daily chart, looks like Dow Jones is leading, but still facing this resistance around these levels that we couldn't break. S&P 500, you start seeing tails as we had very strong move to the upside to the new highs. So it looks like we're rejecting these levels here. So the high of 49.33 we had on 24th. And then on the 26th, 49.34, the same number got rejected. Okay, so let's see how this week's events and numbers will affect the markets. Nasdaq sold the last two sessions. Intel was the one contributed to that. The stock reported not such great news and projections, and the same day stock sold 12%. So as you could see, Nasdaq suffered the past 2 days of the week. Germany, we did break through the resistance of 16,920. Looks like we're on the way to retest the all-time highs. I think boost to it give the no change decision from European Central Bank, and in general, the US indices running up created a positive environment for the German index here. UK finally woke up, as we said here, when the markets were going higher. UK index didn't really do much, but in the past 2 days, accelerated to the upside, and we are facing this level of resistance here around 76.40. Let's see what's next. So that's as far as indices. Let's move to stocks. We had a few stocks reporting. Netflix reported well. It added about 13 million users. The stock gapped up, and then the next 2 days it continued higher. So some analysts are saying that the price or the stock is fully priced. That means that might be some bearish sentiment there. And I did some research. Netflix was or is maintained neutral by the Goldman Sachs analysts, and they lowered the price target from 565 to 500. But others had different opinions, so I guess we'll find out what's next. On Intel, as I said, the stock sold tremendously, and the same Goldman Sachs started the sell recommendation on the stock, and the target lowered to $34 from $39. I guess we'll be watching Intel as well. It had a nice run recently, and then just earnings. Some analysts said they need to really focus on AI more, so investors will be more excited. I guess we'll see if Intel manages to implement anything of that nature. Okay, so we have big guys are reporting this week. On Tuesday we have, but before that I just want to show you two more stocks. Tesla selling, and the earnings are not so great, projections are not so great. The stock is selling. Deutsche Bank cut Tesla price target to 250 from 260, and JP Morgan being more drastic. They lowered the price target Tesla to 130 from 135. We are trading at 183. So that's Tesla. And our stock Teva Pharmaceutical, as we mentioned, watching the monthly chart, start pushing above 11, trying to break through this long time resistance from 2019, I believe, that we might see a nice move and continuation to a new territory. So we continue watching Teva Pharmaceutical. Excuse me. Okay, so back to earnings. We have on Tuesday Alphabet and Microsoft reporting. As you remember, Microsoft, the #1 company, hitting 3 trillion. Go to daily chart, we start seeing those tails. The earnings are coming on Tuesday. Also Alphabet or Google reporting the same day. important. Also on Tuesday, we have Pfizer and GM. Remember, Pfizer's been in trouble, trying to recover and selling again. So let's see what earnings we have. Last time they did sell on the really bad projections. So let's see if that improved. GM also reporting on Tuesday. Going to Wednesday, we have Boeing and MasterCard. So let's take a look at Boeing. The stock's been suffering since that issue with the Alaskan Airlines. And as I mentioned last week, that the inspectors cleared the grounded planes for flying, but it looks like they are putting on hold the productions until further investigation. So that could be harmful for Boeing. And I guess when they report on Wednesday, not just the numbers, but also projections, they might take into consideration those slowdown reasons. Thursday, we have Apple, Amazon, Meta reporting. Apple had a nice recovery here. If you remember, we mentioned that they started pre-ordering for those virtual reality devices. The last 3 days was sold. The earnings are coming on Thursday. And Meta platform, it looks very strong. The stock is at all-time highs. Let's see how the earnings will reflect on the price of the stock. And we have on Friday, ExxonMobil and Chevron reporting. As you could see here, the price of oil moved higher. The stocks moved higher as well after a long sell-off. So let's see what the earnings will do to the price movement or price action. Okay, so that's it with commodities. Again, a lot of direction will be picked on Wednesday after the press conference, and then we add another bunch of data with the employment on Friday. So we might see some choppy trading at least till Wednesday, some reshuffling in the equity markets. Okay, commodities, as we said, with China, oil and copper moved higher also. Oil moved higher on the issues with the Red Sea. The issue continues, and I read some articles that price will affect inflation according to some analysts, because it's so much more expensive now to ship goods across the continents. So oil is moving on that, and also of course on China being revived and the global markets moving higher as well. We are to face 200 moving average here. Let's see how we act there. Natural gas is pulling a show every day. Huge ranges, as you could see here. We did dive below 2.5, then back above, closing at 271 above the trend line here. So let's see if we manage to move higher or come down to retest the lows. A lot of it to do with weather, as we mentioned last week. Let's see what happens. Gold is remaining weak. The 10-year yield remaining about 4%, currently at 4.14%. So that keeps gold weak and dollar or US dollar stronger. Let's see if anything changes. Definitely something will change after the Fed's decision and the press conference. Usually gold reacting to it very strongly, one way or another. So like I said, we might see some choppiness, maybe try to retest 2008 and wait for that decision of the Feds. Palladium not the palladium. Actually, yes, palladium. After a recent sell-off and a lot of actions around our key level of 950, we are closing the week above 950, around 960.70. Let's see if this will hold. We might see continuation to the upside, or it could be temporary relief, and then would dive below again. Again, the whole palladium being used as in catalyst in the car productions, and with all the projections and the numbers and everything else, the demand has been super weak. So you could see this sell-off started after this move to the upside. I think this was the start of the war. And we are at the strategic 950 area. Let's see what happens here. And the last one is cocoa. Give us on Thursday. That could be considered a reversal bar after a nice leg to the upside out of the channel. It's all fundamental. The shortage of physical product is being affecting the futures of cocoa. And let's see how far high we're gonna go. We might break and continue higher. Like the shortage wasn't solved, I guess. Or we might see technical moves to the downside for correction. We'll find out soon. Okay, let's move to Forex. We'll start with dollar index. As I mentioned, dollar is holding strong. We kind of glued to the 200 moving average here, and let's see what Wednesday Fed's decision will do to the dollar value. So as you can take all the majors, pretty much sit the same area. If you remember, we spoke a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we were in the same area, in the middle of the channel between 126 and 128 on the pound. Euro dollar sitting on 200 moving average. Yen is showing a little weakness here. As last decision showed that they didn't do anything, but we have some clear messages that might be April when Bank of Japan will start increasing the rates after negotiating with laborers. It's a complicated mechanism there, but they don't want to make any decisions until they regulate the pay for the employees and the raise of pay and so on. USD CAD moved lower, and the CAD increased the value due to the move in oil prices to the upside. And if you take Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar, they remain being weak against the US dollar, and Swiss franc is sitting also on the 50 moving average here. So like I said, we might see some choppy moves, and the whole trading world is anticipating that Fed's decision followed by the press conference. And if you take all the pairs against the yen, they had a little bit of recovery here, and all of them are facing resistance at current levels. So the yen trade is still in focus, definitely. Just a matter of time when Bank of Japan will pull that trigger. And our Bitcoin is having a 3-day of blast since we closed below 40,000, having a nice recovery. And as I mentioned, it's been ETF related, and as I said, you can compare these ETFs to the IPOs of the stocks, and a lot of times we have a price opening higher than the sell-off when the insiders take the profit, then we settle, and then we start to move higher to shop for the real value of the instrument. So it looks like the same thing's happening here. And the physical Bitcoin, I don't know if you can call it physical, it's kind of oxymoron, but Bitcoin is reacting to it. And our next stop is logically would be this high here, around 44,500. And we're hitting the 50-day moving average. Okay. All right, so I want to thank everyone for joining us. Again, I apologize for not fully functioning. We have key events happening, which is the Fed's decision, NFPs, interest rate decision by Bank of England, and other inflation data and other things coming out. Some analysts are expecting the rest of the year going higher. Others are a little bit more cautious. I guess we'll find out soon what Mr. Powell or Chair Powell has in his sleeves for Wednesday press conference. All the best. Have a wonderful week and successful one. Take care.